Hello friends, let us now learn some important points about this, some important questions, previous year AIMS questions. So, all of the following bones are involved in formation of wrist joint except ulna. This is already done in the last class. Okay, ligamentum flavum consists of, right, ligamentum flavum. What does this ligamentum flavum consists of? This ligamentum flavum mainly consists of elastin. Ligamentum flavum consists of elastin. So what is ligamentum flavum? So I am drawing the vertebrae. Okay, so this is one body of, sorry, I will draw it reverse. Okay, so this is the body of vertebrae. No, only like this only. I love drawing like this. So this is drawing of vertebrae. Sorry, these are the body of vertebrae, and this is the spinous process. This is just a cross section. Okay, these are the spinous process. Now this is I have drawn it so okay, it looks like this something. Okay, so these are the pedicles which are connecting the spines of the vertebrae. Now what is this ligamentum flavum? Ligamentum flavum connects the adjacent vertebrae like this. So this is the ligamentum flavum which is connecting the adjacent vertebrae. Along with this we also have some other ligaments. So this is the spines. Connecting over the spines of the vertebrae we have a ligament which is called as supraspinous ligament. This is supraspinous ligament connecting the spines of the vertebrae from above. Then we also have a ligament which is connecting between the spines. So this is connecting between the spines. So this is called as interspinous ligament. Okay, supraspinous ligament, and we have interspinous ligament. Then this is the body. Actually it is connecting the ligamentum flavum. I have made a small mistake, I'm sorry. This ligamentum flavum is actually connecting the lamina of adjacent vertebrae. That means it's not here. I'm really sorry about this. It is actually here. Okay, it is, these are the laminae, so it is connecting the lamina of adjacent vertebrae. So this is ligamentum flavum, right? And then this is the intervertebral foramen. Then below that we have posterior longitudinal ligament which is connecting the body of vertebrae posteriorly. On the back side it is connecting the body of vertebrae. This is posterior longitudinal ligament. Then over this connecting the anteriorly connecting the body of vertebrae we have one more ligament which is anterior longitudinal ligament. This is posterior longitudinal ligament, this is anterior longitudinal ligament, and in between two vertebrae we contain a disc which is called as intervertebral disc. So these are the main structures. We have supraspinous ligament, interspinous ligament, ligamentum flavum, posterior longitudinal ligament, anterior longitudinal ligament, and also intervertebral disc. This ligamentum flavum has highest content of, it has lots of amount of elastin, because this ligamentum flavum is always under tension, and this ligamentum flavum can be stretched by 80% without damage. This ligament probably functions to provide strength, provides constant smooth lining of vertebral canal. Because it provides the smooth lining of vertebral canal, whenever we do flexion or extension, this will make sure that we won't overstretch either during flexion or extension, thus maintaining stability. Okay. Then the next question, patient with syphilis developed imbalance on walking with eyes closed and had to lift up foot and stamp on the ground to walk. Name the tract involved in this condition. Patient with syphilis. Syphilis patients have some neurological issues. Develop imbalance on walking in eyes closed. So it is something related to balance, and has to lift up the foot and stamp on ground to walk. So this test is Romberg's test, and he has to lift up foot and stamp on ground to walk. That means he is not able to do this what do we say, flexion or extension movements of the legs are not occurring properly, right, because he is lifting up the legs and he is walking, right. So this is because he has not the flexion and extension, sorry, here he has to lift up the foot and stop and stamp on the ground to walk. This is because he has some instability, balance issues are present, right. Now which tract is involved in this condition, right. So whenever there is here the patient, what do you come up with it with the question, Romberg's test is positive in this patient. Now this, what is this Romberg's test used for? This Romberg's test is used to demonstrate the posterior column disease. Romberg's test is used to demonstrate posterior column disease, that is to know the human upright control. So obviously if the Romberg's test is used for posterior column disease, so here the problem is in dorsal column tract, which is a posterior column. It is, the problem here is in dorsal column tract. So this syphilis, a patient with syphilis with this dorsal column involvement, this is called as tabes dorsalis. Syphilis with dorsal column involvement is tabes dorsalis. So if you see in tabes dorsalis, it is the late manifestation of syphilis. Here you will see there is signs of demyelination of posterior column and dorsal root ganglia occurs. So there is demyelination of posterior columns, dorsal root ganglia occurs. As a result, the patient has the patient will suffer from ataxia. There is history of foot drop can be there, or there can be paresthesias with bladder disturbances, impotence, areflexia, loss of position sensation, or deep pain sensation, or temperature sensation sometimes are lost, right. So this mainly occurs due to the damage of these dorsal roots, and also there might be absence of deep tendon reflexes might also be seen, and because of these, this also carries the pain sensation, deep pain sensation. Here the patient will also suffer from fleeting and repetitive lancinating pains in the legs. So these are the important clinical features of the tabes dorsalis. In tabes dorsalis, one more important thing is Argyll-Robertson pupils will be seen in tabes dorsalis. Argyll-Robertson pupils will be seen in tabes dorsalis. So if you see the treatment of this tabes dorsalis, we will have to give penicillin G to the patient is given. Okay. So this is about tabes dorsalis. The next question, Golgi apparatus in serous acinar cells is located in. Golgi apparatus in serous acinar cells is located in. Golgi apparatus in serous acinar cells is located in supranuclear region. Okay. So let me tell you some important things. First, Golgi apparatus. Golgi apparatus is a distinct cytoplasmic region which is present near the nucleus. Okay. So if you see the cytoplasm, so this is the cells. This Golgi apparatus this is actually a new question. See, we will see that this is the serous cell. Okay, serous cell cytoplasm is visualized by polarizing microscope. You will have the two types of cytoplasm. So in the serous cell, so this, what is this? This is a serous acini. In the serous acini cell, you can divide this serous acini into two parts. Okay, one the apical part and the basal part. In the basal part, you will have basophilic cytoplasm, and this basophilic cytoplasm contains the ribosomes and endoplasmic reticulum. This basal part, you will see basophilia because of ribosomes and endoplasmic reticulum, whereas in the apical part you will see the presence of secretory vesicles. In the apical part you will see the presence of secretory vesicles. Okay, so this Golgi apparatus, so in the middle you will have the nucleus. So let us think this is the nucleus. Okay, this Golgi apparatus will be present in the supranuclear position. In the in serous acini, the nucleus is in the basal part, somewhere here. So this Golgi apparatus will be seen somewhere here, so that it can transfer. Here in the basal part you will have reticulocytes and ribosomes, so the proteins which are transcribed can be transferred out through this Golgi apparatus. So it is present in the supranuclear region in the serous acinar cells, right? Then the next question, this is a new question actually. Then left superior intercostal vein drains into. So left superior intercostal vein drains into brachiocephalic vein. So for this we should learn the veins. So venous system first, right? So in the venous system we have first intercostal vein. This is first posterior intercostal vein. Okay, first posterior intercostal vein. So 1 minute. So this is on the right side, this is on the left side. Okay, first posterior intercostal vein drains into the superior vena cava. Okay, then from second, third to total 11th, second to 11th posterior intercostal vein will drain into the directly into the azygous vein. This is on the right side, that is right first posterior intercostal vein will drain into superior vena cava, whereas right second, third, fourth, fifth, that is second to 11th posterior intercostal veins drains into the azygous vein, whereas the 12th intercostal vein or subcostal vein, this will also drain into the azygous vein. Okay, but through a separate channel. Then in the left side we will see, in the left side the first left superior intercostal first left posterior intercostal vein will drain into the left brachiocephalic vein. This is the left brachiocephalic vein, so it drains into the left brachiocephalic vein. Second, third, fourth posterior intercostal veins will combine to form the left superior intercostal veins, and it drains into the left brachiocephalic vein. Second, third, fourth left posterior intercostal veins will continue to form a left superior intercostal vein which drains into the brachiocephalic vein. Then 5th, 6th, 7th, 8th, all these will form a accessory hemiazygous vein and they drain into the azygous vein, whereas 9th to 11th along with the subcostal vein will form a hemiazygous vein and it drains into the azygous vein again. Okay, so this is the azygous system. Then, so these are the important questions. Thank you for watching.